I've always been the go-to babysitter in my family. Not because I volunteered, but because I was just expected to do it. My mom, my aunts, my cousins, they all seemed to think that because I was good with kids, I had some kind of moral obligation to drop everything and take care of them whenever they needed. And for a long time, I just went along with it. But recently, I started feeling really fed up with the whole thing. Babysitting takes time, effort, and patience, especially when the kids are little terrors who don't listen and leave a mess everywhere. I've been doing this for free for years, and I realized I was being taken advantage of. So, I finally decided that if my family wanted me to keep babysitting, I should at least be compensated for my time. The breaking point happened last weekend. My cousin, Lisa, called me out of the blue and asked if I could watch her two kids that evening because she and her husband had dinner plans. Now, I love my little cousins, but watching them is a full-time job. They're 3 and 5 years old, have endless energy, and will destroy the house if you so much as blink. So, I told Lisa, sure, I can babysit, but I'd need to be paid for it this time. She laughed at first, like she thought I was joking. But when I didn't laugh back, her tone changed real quick. What do you mean, paid? She scoffed. Your family. You've always done it for free. I stayed firm. Yeah, but babysitting is work, Lisa. I can't keep giving up my time for nothing. She got irritated and said something about how she and her husband already spent a lot of money and couldn't afford a babysitter. I told her I understood, but that didn't change the fact that I wasn't willing to do it for free anymore. Lisa got mad and told me to forget it. Then she hung up. I thought that was the end of it. But no. That was just the beginning. The next morning, I got a call from my mom. She sounded upset. Why didn't you babysit for Lisa last night? She told me you refused, she said, voice thick with disappointment. I felt the heat rise in my chest. I told her I wasn't doing it for free anymore. Babysitting is hard work, and I have my own life to take care of. There was a long pause on the other end, and I could practically hear her thinking. Then, she spoke. You can't be serious. It's family. You've always been so good with kids, and now you're acting like this? What happened to being helpful? I could hear the judgment in her voice, and it stung. This wasn't the first time my family had made me feel like I was just supposed to give and give, with no regard for how I felt or what I needed. But it hurt more coming from her. She's always been the one to tell me how important it is to help others, especially family. Mom, it's not about not wanting to help. It's about not being treated like a free nanny every time someone needs me. I'm not a paid professional, but I deserve at least a little respect. She sighed deeply, the sound of disappointment hanging in the air. I just don't understand why you're making such a big deal about it. It's family, your name. You're supposed to help each other out without expecting anything in return. I do help out, I said, my voice starting to shake. But this has become a pattern. It's like I'm just expected to drop everything for them. I've been babysitting since I was 16, and I'm 23 now. That's 7 years. I need something in return. I can't keep doing this forever without acknowledging that it's affecting my own life. She didn't respond for a few seconds, and when she did, it was clear she wasn't on my side. You know what? I think you're being selfish. Lisa's family is struggling right now, and you're just making it harder on them. I couldn't believe it. Mom, I get that they're struggling, but that's not my problem. I can't keep being the one who sacrifices my time and energy for everyone else while no one even acknowledges it. I work hard, and I need my own time too. Mom went silent again, and I knew this conversation wasn't going to end well. Eventually, she just said, I think you're making a mistake. But if that's how you feel, I can't change your mind. The call ended, and I was left feeling more alone than ever. That afternoon, my Aunt Karen called me, and she didn't even try to ask me what happened. She went straight into "you're being unreasonable" mode, just like my mom. I don't get it, your name. Why can't you just help out your cousin? It's not like you're doing anything else. What, are you too busy with your own life to spend an evening with your cousins? I wanted to scream at her, but I took a deep breath. Aunt Karen, I have things going on in my life. I work, I go to school, I have friends, I'm trying to build my own future. Babysitting is taking away from all of that. It's not just a favor anymore, it's an expectation. She was silent for a moment before her voice turned condescending. Well, I guess you're just too important for us now. You've always been the responsible one, but now I see it was all just a facade. You're letting your family down. I felt my stomach drop. I wasn't surprised by her reaction, this is exactly what I expected. She and the rest of the family had always relied on me without ever truly appreciating it. But hearing those words still stung. "I'm not letting anyone down," I said firmly. "I'm just standing up for myself. And I'm not going to apologize for it." She didn't respond after that. The conversation fizzled out, and we both hung up. Over the next few days, I felt like I was living in a whirlwind. Family members started calling me, sending texts, and giving me the silent treatment all at once. They all seemed to have the same opinion: I was selfish for refusing to babysit. It didn't end there, though. I started noticing things at family gatherings. Everyone was treating me differently. My mom would give me side glances, my cousins would avoid talking to me, and even my siblings seemed a little more distant. It felt like the entire family was collectively judging me for the decision I had made. I tried to stay strong, but it was hard not to feel guilty. After all, this was my family. They were the people who raised me, who had always expected the best from me, and now it felt like they couldn't even stand to be around me. But I couldn't go back on my decision. Babysitting had become this never-ending cycle where I was always expected to help, and it was draining me. I needed to stand my ground, even if it meant that my family wouldn't be happy with me. As the days went on, the pressure continued to build. My friends, who had always been supportive, noticed that I seemed more distant than usual. They could tell something was off, and when I finally broke down and told them about the situation with my family, they were shocked. "You've been babysitting your cousin for free for years?" my friend Sarah asked, disbelief in her voice. "That's so messed up. I can't believe they're treating you like that." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I know, right? It's like no one respects my boundaries. They just assume I'll always be there to help." Sarah sighed. "You've got to stand your ground. I get that it's family, but they're taking advantage of you." That was the advice I needed to hear. I wasn't alone in this. My friends had my back, and they reminded me that I wasn't being unreasonable for wanting to have a life outside of babysitting. But as much as my friends were supportive, the constant tension with my family was still there. Every family event felt awkward. My mom wouldn't talk to me for long, and if we did speak, it was all about how I needed to help out more. Even my dad, who usually stayed out of these kinds of arguments, began to make subtle comments about how I used to be so helpful. It was exhausting. Then, one evening, I was at home, just relaxing and scrolling through social media when I saw a post from my cousin, Lisa. It was a picture of her and her kids, all smiling and happy at some park. The caption read, "Couldn't do this without my amazing sister, my name, always there for me no matter what. Love you." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The post made it look like I had been there for her recently, but in reality, I hadn't agreed to help. That post was another way my family was trying to make it seem like I was in the wrong. I decided to confront Lisa directly. I called her that night, hoping we could clear things up. After a few rings, she answered, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "Hey," she said, "what's up?" "About that post," I began, trying to keep my tone calm. "Why did you make it seem like I've been helping you out?" There was a pause on the other end. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I just wanted to show that I appreciated you, especially with everything that's been going on. "Lisa, you know I've told you I can't babysit for free anymore. Why are you pretending like I've been there for you?" I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. "I didn't mean to upset you," she said, sounding defensive. "I just thought you'd appreciate it." "Well, I don't," I replied sharply. "It feels like you're trying to paint me as the villain when I'm just standing up for myself. It's not right, Lisa. And it's making things worse with everyone else." There was silence on the other end, and I could hear her breathing, as if she was thinking through what I had said. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "I didn't mean to make things harder. I guess I didn't really understand how much it was bothering you." I softened a little. "It's not just about the babysitting. It's about being treated like I have no other responsibilities. Like I'm just here to be at everyone's beck and call. I love you, but I need you to understand that." "I do get it," she said quietly. "I'm sorry. Your name. I'll talk to Mom and the rest of the family." "Thanks," I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I just wanted to feel like my boundaries matter. After the conversation with Lisa, I thought things might get better, but the situation still lingered. The rest of the family continued to treat me like I was the one who was in the wrong, and I could feel myself growing more and more frustrated. One day, when I was hanging out with my dad, he casually said, "I know you've got your own life going on, but family is important. You should really help your mom out more." I could feel my patience wearing thin. "Dad, I do help out. But I can't keep sacrificing my time without any acknowledgement. I have my own goals, my own responsibilities. I need to stop putting everyone else's needs before my own." He looked at me, disappointment etched on his face. "I just think you're being a little selfish." That was the moment when it really hit me. It wasn't just about babysitting anymore. It was about my family's refusal to see me as an individual, someone who had needs and goals of my own. They didn't understand why I couldn't just drop everything for them anymore, and I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. That conversation with my dad left me feeling drained, but also more determined. I had finally recognized that this wasn't just about babysitting, this was about my family's entire approach to me as a person. They saw me as a caregiver, a helper, someone who existed solely to meet their needs. It was like my own dreams and desires were invisible to them. As the days passed, I found myself feeling increasingly disconnected from everyone. It wasn't just the conflict with my family, it was the way they treated me, like I owed them something. I had always been the dependable one, the one they could count on without question. But I was beginning to resent that role. I wasn't a robot, and I wasn't their personal assistant. One evening, my mom called me into the living room. She had that tone she used when she was about to have a serious conversation, and I braced myself for another round of guilt tripping. When I sat down, she looked at me with a soft expression, but I could tell she wasn't happy. "We need to talk about the babysitting situation," she began. "You know that we've always relied on you to help out. I understand that you have other things going on, but you're a part of this family. You can't just refuse to help when we need you." I felt my blood pressure rise. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not refusing to help, Mom. I'm just saying I need to be treated with respect. I can't do everything for everyone. I need my own time too." "You're being unreasonable," she said sharply. "You're the only one who can do it. Everyone else has their own responsibilities." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So, what? You're saying I don't have a life of my own? That I should just put my own things on hold to cater to everyone else?" She sighed. "It's not like that. We're just asking for a little help. It's what family does for each other." I shook my head, feeling the anger bubbling up inside me. "I'm not saying I won't help at all, Mom. But I can't keep being the one to pick up all the slack. You've never asked anyone else in the family to step up, so why is it always on me?" She looked away, avoiding my gaze. "I don't know. It's just always been that way." "Well, I'm changing that," I said firmly. "I'm done being the only one who does everything. If I keep doing this, I'm going to lose myself." There was silence in the room. I could tell she didn't know what to say to that. She had never seen me stand up to her like this before. "Fine," she said at last, her voice softening. "I'll talk to your father. But don't think you can just stop helping altogether. You're part of this family, and you can't just walk away from your responsibilities." "I'm not walking away, Mom," I said, trying to stay calm. "But I'm setting boundaries. I need you to respect that." She didn't respond right away, but I could tell she was processing what I said. After a moment, she gave me a small nod. "I'll try to understand." I left the living room feeling a mix of relief and frustration. At least I had spoken my truth, but the road ahead was still unclear. I wasn't sure if my family would actually respect my boundaries, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. I had to take control of my life. The next few days were tense. My mom and dad seemed quieter around me, almost as if they were trying to figure out how to handle the situation. My siblings were a bit confused too, but they hadn't said anything directly to me. They had probably heard the arguments, but no one was willing to acknowledge them openly. Then, one day, my cousin Lisa called me. "Hey, I heard what happened with your mom. Are you okay?" I sighed, rubbing my temples. "Not really. It's like no matter how many times I tell them I need space, they don't get it." "I get it," Lisa said sympathetically. "It's hard to set boundaries when your family doesn't respect them. But you're doing the right thing. You shouldn't feel guilty for taking care of yourself." "I know," I said, feeling comforted by her words. "It just sucks because they don't see it that way. They think I'm being selfish, but I'm just trying to have a life." "You're not selfish," she reassured me. "You're setting boundaries. And that's something they'll have to get used to." I hung up the phone feeling a little better, but I knew this wasn't going to be an easy road. My family wasn't going to change overnight. I would have to keep standing my ground, even when it felt like no one understood. I knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but I had committed to setting boundaries, and I wasn't going to back down now. Over the next week, my family's behavior toward me fluctuated. Some days, it seemed like they were trying to adjust, giving me more space and acknowledging that I had my own life outside of the house. Other days, it felt like they were testing my limits, pushing me to see if I would cave and go back to my old role. It was a constant back and forth, a delicate dance of asserting my independence while not completely alienating everyone around me. The worst days were when they would guilt-trip me into helping out. My stepdad, who was the more passive-aggressive of the two, would drop little comments about how things were so much easier when I was around to help. He'd say things like, "I don't know how we'd manage without you," or "It's like you're the only one who cares enough to get things done." Those comments would hit me harder than I'd like to admit. It wasn't that I didn't want to help, it was that I didn't want to feel like I had no other choice. I wanted to be needed, but I didn't want to be the only one doing the work. One evening, my mom and stepdad called me into the living room again, and I knew it wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. They were both sitting on the couch, looking at me expectantly as I took a seat. My mom started first, her tone hesitant. "We've been thinking," she said, her voice careful, "and we know that you're feeling overwhelmed with everything. We understand that you need time for yourself." I waited, unsure where this was going. She seemed genuine, but there was still a part of me that was skeptical. "But," she continued, "we still need your help. You know how it is around here, and it's just hard for us to keep up with everything without you." I felt my heart rate increase. There it was again. That sense that they couldn't function without me, that I was the only one who could hold everything together. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "I understand that you need help, Mom, but I can't be the one to do everything. I'm not saying I won't help at all, but I need to have my own time too. I've got school, work, and a life outside of this house. You can't just rely on me to fix everything." She looked at me for a long moment, her face softening. "I get it, I really do. I just don't know how we'll manage without you so much. It's been this way for so long." "That's exactly why it's not healthy," I said firmly. "I'm not the one who's supposed to carry this family on my shoulders. Everyone needs to step up." For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was actually being heard. My mom didn't immediately respond, but she seemed to be thinking about what I said. There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I'll talk to your stepdad. We'll try to find a way to make things more balanced," she said quietly. "But I need you to understand that we can't just stop everything we're doing and pretend like nothing has to get done." "I understand," I said, nodding. "But I'm not going to be your default solution anymore. We'll have to find a way to make things work for everyone, not just me." The conversation ended there, and I left the living room feeling a mix of relief and frustration. I wasn't sure if they were really going to make the changes I needed, but I had said my piece. Now, it was up to them to decide if they wanted to respect my boundaries. The next few weeks were a bit of a roller coaster. My parents did try to get my siblings more involved, but it wasn't perfect. There were still moments when they'd ask me to help out, and I'd have to remind them that I wasn't going to drop everything just because they asked. But little by little, they seemed to understand. My siblings started doing more around the house, and there were fewer moments of tension, but the hardest part was when I had to say no to helping with my younger brother's school project. It wasn't that I didn't want to help him, I cared about him a lot, but I had my own work to do, and I couldn't prioritize his project over my own responsibilities. When I told my mom I couldn't help, she seemed disappointed. "I thought you would be there for him, like you always are," she said quietly. "I am here for him, Mom," I replied, my voice steady but firm. "But I can't keep putting my own life on hold. He'll figure it out, and I'll be there for him when I can, but I can't do everything." There was a long silence before she finally nodded. "I know. You're right. I just don't want to see you getting overwhelmed again." "I won't be," I said confidently. "I'm learning to set boundaries, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it anymore." And for the first time, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy, but I had taken a step toward living life on my own terms. I had learned that setting boundaries didn't make me a bad person, it made me someone who valued my time and my well-being. As the weeks passed, I started noticing subtle but meaningful changes. My siblings seemed to be figuring out how to take on more responsibility around the house. My younger brother, who had previously been dependent on me for everything from homework help to making sure he didn't forget his lunch, had started making his own decisions. He even came up with his own creative solutions to problems, like organizing the family's laundry schedule or helping my mom with grocery shopping. It felt like a win for everyone. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were days when I'd come home from school, exhausted from balancing my own responsibilities, and I'd walk into the house to find my parents having yet another conversation about how they couldn't handle everything. My stepdad would make passive-aggressive comments, like, "It would be nice if someone could help around here without being asked," or, "We can't run a house without help, can we?" I had to bite my tongue and remind myself that I couldn't let them manipulate me into feeling guilty. I had set my boundaries, and I wasn't going to let them chip away at that progress. Instead, I'd calmly remind them that I had my own things going on, and that I wasn't going to be the only one carrying the weight anymore. I know it's hard, but I can't just keep stepping in when things get tough. Everyone needs to pitch in, I'd say. We've been doing it this way for too long. It's time for everyone to step up. Most of the time, they'd look at me with a mixture of frustration and resignation, but they didn't argue. It was clear that they were starting to realize the truth in what I was saying. There were a few times when I had to deal with moments of weakness. One particularly tough day, my mom called me at school, sounding distressed. "Sweetie, I know you're busy, but we really need you. Your stepdad is getting really frustrated, and I don't know how much longer I can deal with this." I could hear the stress in her voice, and it made me feel conflicted. I wanted to help her, of course, but I also knew that if I went back into the same pattern of rescuing them, I'd be undermining everything I'd worked for. "I know, Mom. I understand that things are tough, but I need you to understand that I can't keep doing everything. I have my own life, and it's not fair for me to drop everything every time you ask." I could hear her sigh on the other end. "I get it, but you're the only one who seems to understand everything. It's hard to know where to turn when you're not around." I took a deep breath. "I know it's hard. But you can't just depend on me all the time. You have to find a way to manage without me." It was a tough conversation, and I knew it wasn't the last one we'd have. But I was starting to see the small changes that were happening. My mom was slowly starting to learn how to lean on others, and I could tell she was making an effort to get my stepdad to pitch in more as well. My younger siblings were becoming more self-sufficient too, and that was a huge relief. One day, I walked in after school and found that the house was surprisingly quiet. I peeked into the kitchen and saw my stepdad making dinner, a task that, in the past, would have been left to me when my mom wasn't home. He looked up as I walked in and gave me a small smile. "I thought I'd take care of dinner tonight," he said. I raised an eyebrow, surprised but pleased. "Really? That's a first." He chuckled. "Yeah, well, it's about time I started pulling my weight around here." It was a small victory, but it felt like progress. I'd noticed that my stepdad had begun to step up more, taking on tasks that used to automatically fall to me. My mom was also putting more effort into organizing family responsibilities. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The real turning point came when we sat down for a family dinner a few weeks later. For the first time in what felt like forever, everyone was genuinely contributing to the conversation, and there was no underlying tension about chores or responsibilities. My siblings talked about their day, my mom and stepdad shared their plans for the weekend, and even my younger brother joked around with my stepdad in a way I hadn't seen before. It felt like a moment of relief. I could see that things were shifting in the right direction. The family dynamic was changing, and it felt good to know that I wasn't shouldering the burden of everything anymore. Later that evening, my mom pulled me aside. "I know it hasn't been perfect," she said, "but thank you for pushing us to change. It's hard for all of us, but I can see that we're all starting to do more." I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "It's not easy, but we'll figure it out. I just need to keep making sure that I'm taking care of myself too." She nodded, her eyes softening with understanding. "You've taught us a lot, and I know it's not always easy for you. But I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself." As I walked away, I felt a mix of pride and relief. I had managed to create the space I needed for myself without destroying my relationship with my family. It wasn't perfect, but I had found a way to make it work. Things weren't always smooth, and there were still moments of tension. But overall, the changes had been positive. My family was learning to share responsibilities, and I was learning to say no when I needed to. It was a journey, but one that I was proud to be on. And most importantly, I had learned that I didn't have to be the one to fix everything. I didn't have to be the hero who solved everyone's problems. I could take care of myself and still love my family, and that realization made all the difference. As things started to get better, I couldn't help but feel relieved. Sure, there were still moments where my stepdad would slip back into old habits or my mom would get overwhelmed, but I had learned to stand my ground and take care of myself. I realized that I wasn't obligated to be the one who fixed everything, and that sometimes, Stepping back was the best thing I could do for everyone involved. But now, I'm wondering if I made the right call. Am I the asshole for standing up for myself and refusing to keep taking on everything around the house? Should I have just kept going with the flow and taken care of everything to keep the peace? My family still isn't thrilled about my decision, but I feel like I'm finally putting myself first. So, what do you think? Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit the household? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more like it, don't forget to like and subscribe.